In 1985, Clint Eastwood rode into theaters as a ghostly preacher with no name and no past. The film became a Western masterpiece. But what happened to the faces behind that story? Some are legends, some are gone, and some stories will break your heart. Clint Eastwood as the preacher. Clint Eastwood was 55 years old when he stepped into the role of the mysterious preacher, a silent and deadly guardian who appears from nowhere to protect a struggling gold mining community from ruthless corporate greed. He not only starred in the film, but also directed it, demonstrating the kind of complete creative control that had already become his trademark in Hollywood. The preacher remains one of his most iconic and debated characters, with many fans still arguing over whether the character was meant to be a ghost, an angel, or simply a man with a violent past. As of 2026, Clint Eastwood is 96 years old and remains one of the most remarkable figures in the entire history of cinema. His career has spanned more than 7 decades and includes not just acting, but directing some of the most celebrated films ever made, including Unforgiven, Million Dollar Baby, and Gran Torino. His estimated net worth stands at approximately $375 million, built through acting, directing, producing, and smart real estate investments over many decades. Despite his age, Eastwood has continued to stay physically active, reportedly still playing golf and maintaining a disciplined daily routine. The man who once rode silently into a desperate mining town ultimately became something far greater than any character he ever played on screen. Carrie Snodgress as Sarah Wheeler. Carrie Snodgress played Sarah Wheeler, the emotionally strong and devoted mother, trying to protect her daughter and hold her small community together in the face of overwhelming pressure and violence. She was 39 years old at the time of filming and brought a quiet, aching dignity to the role that gave the story much of its emotional weight. Before Pale Rider, she had received an Academy Award nomination for her powerful performance in Diary of a Mad Housewife, a role that briefly positioned her as one of the most promising actresses in Hollywood. Sadly, Carrie Snodgress passed away on April 1, 2004, at just 58 years old, after experiencing heart failure while awaiting a liver transplant in Los Angeles. Her later years were marked by serious health struggles, financial difficulties, and personal heartbreak that most of her fans never fully knew about. She had stepped away from her career at a crucial moment to care for her son, Zeke, who was born with cerebral palsy, during her relationship with musician Neil Young. That relationship eventually fell apart, and a later relationship with composer Jack Nitzsche turned violent and left lasting emotional damage. She continued acting in smaller roles throughout her final years, but the spotlight she once deserved never fully returned. Her story remains one of the most bittersweet in Hollywood history. Michael Moriarty as Hull Barret. Michael Moriarty played Hull Barret, the determined and principled miner who refuses to surrender his claim or his dignity despite constant threats from the powerful LaHood mining operation. He was 44 years old during filming and brought an everyday authenticity to the role that made his character feel like a real man caught in an impossible situation. His performance gave the audience a believable human center around which the more mythical elements of the story could orbit. As of 2026, Michael Moriarty is 85 years old and has largely stepped away from the entertainment industry. His career reached one of its highest points when he starred as prosecutor Ben Stone in the long-running television series Law and Order, a role that earned him strong critical praise and a dedicated following. However, his time on the show ended abruptly after he entered a very public dispute with network executives over creative and political issues related to television content. The controversy damaged his career significantly, and personal struggles, including multiple marriages and a long battle with alcohol addiction, added further instability to his later years. He eventually relocated to Canada, describing himself as a political exile, and has lived a quiet and largely private life since then. His estimated net worth is around $5 million. Sydney Penny as Megan Wheeler. Sydney Penny was just 14 years old when she played Megan Wheeler, the young and hopeful daughter of Sarah Wheeler, who becomes emotionally attached to the mysterious preacher and sees him as a kind of divine protector sent to rescue her family. Her performance was natural, warm, and genuinely moving, and it confirmed what many in the industry already suspected after her earlier work in the television miniseries The Thornbirds. She was considered one of the most talented young actresses of her generation. As of 2026, Sydney Penny is 55 years old and continues to work occasionally in television productions while living a relatively quiet life in North Carolina. Like many child actors before her, the transition into adult roles proved more difficult than her early success suggested it would be. She found steady work in daytime television, including appearances in All My Children and The Bold and the Beautiful, and received daytime Emmy nominations that recognized her continued commitment to her craft. She married producer Robert Powers and built a family life away from Hollywood, raising their son together for decades. Tragically, Robert Powers passed away in 2024, leaving Penny to navigate grief after losing a partner who had been central to her life for so many years. Her estimated net worth is approximately $3 million. Chris Penn as Josh LaHood. Chris Penn played Josh LaHood, the arrogant and dangerously impulsive son of the film's main villain, a young man whose reckless behavior repeatedly pushes the story toward bloodshed. He was only 20 years old during filming and already showed flashes of the raw, unpredictable energy that would later define some of his most memorable performances. Growing up as the younger brother of Sean Penn meant that comparisons were inevitable and often unfair, but Chris possessed a genuine and distinctive talent entirely his own. Sadly, Chris Penn died on January 24, 2006, at just 40 years old, after being found unresponsive in his Santa Monica apartment. Medical examiners determined that cardiovascular disease combined with the effects of multiple prescription medications contributed to his death. Throughout the 1990s, he had delivered impressive work in films including Reservoir Dogs, True Romance, and Rush Hour, but his career was frequently disrupted by struggles with substance abuse and the physical and emotional toll those struggles took on him. He never married and by many accounts lived a life marked by loneliness, despite existing within the highly visible world of Hollywood fame. When he died, the film community lost an actor whose potential had never been fully realized and whose absence left a genuine void. Richard Dysart as Coy LaHood. Richard Dysart played Coy LaHood, the cold and calculating mining baron whose greed and ruthlessness serve as the engine driving all of the film's conflict. He was 56 years old during production and brought a precise, controlled menace to the role that made LaHood genuinely threatening without ever resorting to theatrical excess. Directors throughout his career recognized that Dysart possessed a rare ability to make authority feel genuinely dangerous. Richard Dysart passed away on April 5, 2015, at the age of 86, after a prolonged battle with cancer at his home in Santa Monica. His career had spanned stage, television, and film across several decades, and he is perhaps best remembered outside of Pale Rider for his Emmy Award-winning role as attorney Leland Mackenzie in the long-running legal drama L.A. Law. That performance brought him the widespread recognition that matched the quality of work he had been quietly delivering for years. His personal life included 2 painful divorces before he found lasting stability with artist Catherine Jacoby, who remained his partner until the end of his life. His estimated net worth at the time of his passing was approximately $4 million. John Russell as Marshal Stockburn. John Russell played Marshal Stockburn, the feared and merciless lawman who rides into the story as the ultimate instrument of violent enforcement, a man whose very reputation precedes him like a death sentence. He was 64 years old during filming and delivered one of the most chilling performances in the entire movie, creating a villain whose cold authority felt genuinely irreversible. His physical presence and controlled delivery made Stockburn a genuinely unforgettable antagonist. John Russell passed away on January 19, 1991, at the age of 70, following heart failure complicated by emphysema. His career had deep roots in the Western genre, stretching back decades to his celebrated television role as Marshal Dan Troop in the series Lawman, which made him one of the most recognizable faces in American Western entertainment throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s. He also appeared alongside John Wayne in Rio Bravo, further cementing his place within that tradition. Friends and colleagues later acknowledged that heavy smoking and drinking had quietly undermined his health over many years. He left behind a career spanning nearly half a century and an estimated net worth of around $500,000. The cast of Pale Rider lived lives as dramatic, complicated, and unforgettable as the film itself. Some found lasting greatness. Some endured heartbreak that never made the headlines. And some left far too soon. That is the real story behind the legend.